We've got a new Labour government, and we're not supposed to talk about the Brexit. Yes, the Brexit. How can we get this Labour government to talk about Brexit? Now, they tell us that they're going to build all these houses. I tell you, they're going to fail. They tell us they're going to improve our tax take, increase GDP. Growth, they say. I say they're going to fail. They might increase it a little bit, but it will be nowhere near enough while we're outside of the European Union. Now, when you've been following us as closely as I have, and various others who took it upon themselves to depress themselves about the Brexit, because pretty much what it does, you understand how difficult it is and how complex it is being outside of the European Union. It's not just about whether or not we can easily get our parcels delivered from family in the UK to here in France without paying the fees. No, it's not just about that. There's a lot of other deciding factors that affect everybody's life. It also affects how much you pay for your goods on the shelves. Everything has become more expensive. It's no good just blaming it on the war and the pandemic. No. We have to accept that the cost of importing goods has gone up. And for the companies that have not increased their prices, they are absorbing those prices, which means there's less profit. And if there's less profit, there's less tax being paid. Hence less tax take, hence less money for services. Simple. It's just how it is. Now, my daughter's here at the moment. It's lovely having it. New grandchild and all that. Little Freddie. I think my nickname is Freddie Krueger. I don't think that go down too well with it. But anyway, she's here at the moment. And although she's no Brexiter and she voted to remain, she doesn't understand all the stuff that's been going on because she hasn't been following it. And like many people out there, are more concerned about obviously looking after their own family, paying the bills and stuff like that, but not actually pointing the finger to say, hang on, that is to blame. I tell you, it's the Brexit. I know you can say to me, it's the war in Ukraine and the pandemic. They're usually the go-tos for the government. And the same will be with this government, the new Labour government. But they need to wake up. Because all those promises that they're making, they are going to fail. Whether it be the house building, or whether it be increasing the actual revenue, the growth in the country, so there's more money for services, they're going to fail. Unless they accept that Brexit is shit. Because it is. They're too busy trying to keep their red wall base on side, hence they've moved to the right, the Labour Party. Don't be wrong, if I wasn't disenfranchised, the fact that we didn't get our postal vote, I would have voted Labour. It's logical to do so. The goal is get the Tories out. A bit like back in 2019, get Brexit done. How'd that pan out for you? You're well and truly bloomin' done. In fact, you're toast. You need to wake up. If it's more expensive to do business, there's less profit or the prices go up. Simple. That's just business. It's just logic. It's not rocket science. No. So let's go through some of these problems that we've got at the moment. Veterinary, for instance. We can't get the vets. We're still sending meat abroad to be packaged. And it comes back again. We don't have the vets. We don't have the means to actually slaughter the animals and package them. Oh, sounds awful, doesn't it? Ate carnes. Culture. That's buggered. Got Elton John, he's out there, he's trying to do his bit. And everyone look at him, well, you're all right, mate, you've got all the blooming money now, haven't you? But the fact of the matter is, he's right. Bands can't tour. Small bands. And I used to put gigs on, a lot of gigs, because it's a radio station in the UK. And we used to put gigs on for bands. And we had bands coming from all over the place. The love gods, they were brilliant, they were. Crikey. Big, tall, blonde girl. And we had Shouting the Girls on there and various other bands before they were famous. Leona Lewis was on our, played on a radio station before she was famous. Okay, she wasn't from abroad, but we had many bands that travelled from abroad to come and to be a support act or be the act in one of our gigs. They can't do that anymore. Small bands can't afford to. You've got the cost of the 8 carnets, they're around 250 odd euros plus VAT, and then you've got the fact they've got to pay prepay their VAT on all their goods. What the 8 carnet is a temporary export certificate, and it also applies to sports as well. Even racing industry, F1, all they have to do the 8 carnets now coming from the UK. Many of them are moving abroad. To the EU, so they haven't got to do all that. Every single thing has to be itemised, and VAT. As an insurance policy, your 40% has to be paid. Yes, providing it goes back, because it's a temporary export, providing it goes back to the UK, they can get that money back. But if you're a gigging band, you make your money by selling T-shirts and CDs and stuff, merchandise. All that, you don't get the VAT back on. No. Well, it makes it not cost effective. That's how they make the money. That's how they fund their tours. So loads of bands in the UK no longer tour the EU at all. I'll go and tour the United States then. Yeah, right, okay, how far is that? Every single country they tour to within the EU, they have got to get a work permit because they're effectively working, because they're taking money. Don't matter if there's no profit in it, they still need a work permit. So that screwed them completely. When we were in the EU, they didn't have any of that. They were allowed to tour, which means we're spreading our culture. British bands are going abroad and being able to tour and what have you, and sharing our music. It could have been the Beatles, for instance. I would say, okay, it might have been before we were actually in the EU, but things have changed and moved on, and so are the member states in the EU. They've moved on and adapted to the European Union as a country. And what have they lost? One country. What have we lost? 27 member states who actually hold all the Schengen. So that's what the culture. Screwed up. Travel. How many times now are we seeing flipping coups at Dover, for instance? Crikey, it's going to get worse. When they bring in the EES system, that's going to be an absolute nightmare. You're all going to have to be fingerprinted. And a rectal scan. Okay, maybe not a rectal scan, but anyway. You have your biometrics done. They're going to take the last, I think it's going to be 3 years or something. They're going to hold it on record, then it's going to start again. So this is an ongoing problem. They're building all sorts of shit to actually accommodate all this stuff in the EU. I don't know what's going on in the UK, though. They're in the room at Dover. Although I think they're actually doing that, actually. I think I've seen pictures of it. It's going to be a nightmare. There's queues and queues of these things, all these kiosks, these like Borns, little standard things. You got to go in and do all your bits and pieces so you can go through it and what have you and get through the other side. It is going to be tailbacks galore. Go on holiday, forget it. That will be your holiday. The time you get through it, you have to come back again. So that's your holiday scuppered. And then we've got the ETIS system coming in, which basically you're going to have to, it's a travel document. So basically you say, I'm going to travel. Here's my, some people call it visa. It's not a visa, all right? It's not a visa. It's not a Schengen visa. You've already got the 90 and 180 days, because that's what the Schengen visa is. You've already got that included within your trade cooperation agreements. You don't need that. But you still got to do your ETIS once it comes into play. I think it's 2025 that's coming in. So there's that. Food safety. That's a nightmare. In fact, okay, they're starting to check foodstuffs now, but not all of it's getting checked. A lot of it's just going straight through. It's crazy. The system's broken, and the actual online system keeps falling flat on its face. They ain't ironed out all the teething troubles yet. Are they teething troubles, or are they just built in? See, we didn't used to worry about it. The old system was called the chief system back in the day before we were in the EU. That system itself, well, they tried to reuse it. That was working alongside this new system. It's patched to hell. It's 30 odd years old. It's a system that they used to use also if importing stuff from like America and places like that. And now we've got the whole of the EU and oh god, it's an absolute nightmare. Doesn't work. You're wondering why we're not getting things on time and everything's more expensive. Can't have mixed pallets anymore. What I mean by that is a pallet on a lorry. Before you could have, I don't know, your hair dye and food stuff on the same pallet. You can't do that anymore, which means everything's a mixed pallet. So you might have some, I don't know, some cheese truckles or something on there, some bits of cheese on there, and some wine and what have you. Well, the wine isn't an issue, but the cheese is. The cheese will stop the wine going through. So now the haulage companies have to say, hang on, you can't do that anymore. It's causing huge amounts of problems. So what they're having to do now is try and do a whole pallet at a time. That doesn't work when you've got a business-to-customer model. So there's businesses in the UK, they can no longer trade with the EU because they don't have the funds. No one's going to buy a pallet load of, I don't know, toothpicks, for instance. That's random, I know, but you get the gist. So if we're going to improve our economy, we've got to make things smoother. We've got to clean things through. Talk about good, clean stuff. We can't even get Nordic sperm anymore. For the test tube babies. Designer babies. Can't get it anymore. Probably spends too long in that port, maybe. We'd be dead by the time it gets there. It goes on and on. Like I said, but the postage, the fishing industry is completely scuppered. They're whinging back and flipping when Labour got in. They're whinging and whining about Brexit. Right, about how they feel that they were done over by the Brexit Trade Corporation deal. But when you ask them, would you vote for Brexit again, they say yes. This is just sadomasochism. It's maddening. I find it so flippin' frustrating. It is so maddening. And all this silence around this, like a B word, don't say it. The Brexit. It's maddening. It is ignorance, it's stupidity. I'm sorry, if you believe in all this shit, Brexit, there's a screw loose. There's got to be. If you know the information and you're happy with what you know, and you're happy with what's happening to the country, being done to the country, inflicted on the country and on people, well then you've got a screw loose. You must have. People say, you say things like that. I'll say it as I see it. I'm fed up of actually having to tippy-toe around people that, quite frankly, they've destroyed our country. They've ruined it. Now, the only benefit of Brexit so far is the fact it's taken out the Conservative Party. It has. It took out David Cameron. He said he stepped down, and he did. Took out Theresa May because they didn't like a deal that she struck. What do we get? We got Boris Johnson. It was an oven-ready deal. Total failure. Northern Ireland Protocol. That's another flipping story. Total utter failure. Green and red lanes and all that flipping malarkey. Come on, give me a flipping break. Not for the EU stickers on UK food in UK supermarkets. That's like poking their Brexiters in the eye. It is. That bit I like. Maybe that is a benefit of Brexit, but there again, we wouldn't need it if we didn't have Brexit. Going back to the fishing. Part of the Trade Corporation Agreement, the deal, for those fishermen who can't operate anymore, those got compensation, or they should have got compensation. And those who did get compensation had to cut up the fishing boats. So even if you did recover from from this catastrophe that Brexit is, the fishermen that is, well then quite frankly, got no boats. They've been cut up. Hundreds of them. And there they were, saying that flipping after the flipping general election. There they are, Cornish fishermen, saying, there's no boats anymore. You can't see them. It's like a graveyard around here. They cut them up. They know this. Or do they? Or they can't put two and two together. This is maddening. And the idea that Keir Starmer, don't get me wrong, I would have voted Labour if I got my postal vote in time. Mrs. got her, I never got mine. Caroline got hers day before the vote. I'm in France. It's never going to get back in time. We did everything when we were supposed to do it, and we didn't get our vote, so we were disenfranchised. Keir Starmer is not going to make Brexit better. He's not going to make Brexit work. The Labour Party is not going to make Brexit work. There is no making Brexit work, period. All the economists, apart from one stupid idiot, all the economists who had half a brain cell, they actually warned us. Our exports are down 4 to 6%. It's cost us billions and billions and billions in trade. Some say it's 4 billion. Some are less optimistic, saying it's 6 billion. The cost to industry on top of that is actually, to be able to export the goods, it's considerable. All these costs have to be consumed somehow. And it's usually the customer. It prices us out of the market. If you want to export goods from the UK and you're all of a sudden 10 to 15% more expensive than those in the EU, well, obviously they're going to be buying them in the EU. And the EU business are going to invest in their business because they say, hang on, our market all of a sudden's increased. And then you want to try and get back in the market and it's gone because it's gone to them. So much for your sovereignty. Sovereignty by foot. We've got less power, less soft power in the UK. We have no access to the security database in the EU. No access. The only access we have is for major crimes, actual crimes. But for anything else, no. No access. So we don't know what's going on in the UK, what's going on in the EU. It's not shared. A lack of intelligence, certainly from the Brexiters who decided to put the cross in the wrong box, that they did. House building. Over 200,000 shortage. I think 240,000 shortage, was it something, a crazy amount of actual trades in the UK. Well, we haven't skilled up because we haven't got the people to skill up. The people come over to the UK with skills, such as the Polish or the Romanians, what have you. They're coming over with skills, and they're all of a sudden telling we don't want them. We don't want them if they're so-called illegal migrants. And then we don't seem to want them if they're legal migrants. They've got visas and what have you. They're always kicking off about it. Nigel Farage now, he's going to be putting more pressure on in Parliament with his big gob. Foghorn of ignorance. It's going to go on and on and on. And before we know it, we are going to be in such, a bad place now. But we're not going to be building any houses without these people. Are we? How are we going to do that? Now, there are some things that the Labour Party have said that they're going to do, and it makes perfect sense to me, such as get rid of the asset holding companies or the benefits for foreign-owned asset holding companies where they pay no taxation, but you do in the UK. If they get rid of things like that, it's going to increase tax take and stuff like that. That's all positive stuff. I get that. But without being in the EU, wholeheartedly, we ain't going to come out of this. We're just not. We've basically put a wall up between us and our closest trading partner. That's madness. Absolute madness. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to make the Labour Party wake up? Not look at this politically, look at this logically. How are we going to do that? Because without being within the single market and the customs union, and don't forget, you can't just go into those without being part, accepting freedom of movement. And that's not going to ride well, is it? Joining the EU, that is going to require us actually accepting the euro. That isn't going to bode well either, is it, in the UK? Sovereignty and all that. How are we going to do it? How are we ever going to make this work? I'm winging this all. I haven't got a note or anything, just so you know. It's probably why it's getting a bit long. I just find it absolutely frustrating. We need to get back into the EU as quickly as possible. And it's still going to take 10 years plus. What do you reckon? Please leave in the comments down below. Please click the like button and maybe subscribe to the channel. But also we're doing rewilding here in France. Can you see trees? Yes, we've been planting trees. And if you would like a tree, we'll plant a tree on your behalf. And I will make a sign to go with the tree with your name on, or it could be a memory of a loved one, a pet, or even the birth of a child. How about something like that? Positive stuff. I like positive stuff. Crikey. And I apologise, I hadn't uploaded videos recently. I've been in a bit of a strange place. So anyway, thank you for watching. Toodaloo.